Okay, so that I got cut off there, ran out of my 15 minutes, so I'm going to go back and redraw this one for you. So anyway, in the different color, I'm going to redraw this. It's going to cross through here. It's going to turn at some point, bounce off at this point, turn, go all the way down to the, excuse me, y-intercept, turn, come back up. Sorry, this isn't going to be very good, but that's supposed to be a wiggle going through there. Okay, and that is problem number 22. All right, moving on. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't do the end behaviors just in case. So end behaviors, LIM, x to infinity. What is y going to do? LIM, x to negative infinity. What is y going to do? In both cases, these are both going up over here on both ends. So both answers, as far as the end behavior goes, will be infinity. All right, next question. So here we're going to graph these. We're going to list all of the zeros and determine if they bounce, wiggle, or cross. So with 4 terms, I would try the whole grouping method so I can get it into factored form. So I'm going to start with x squared, and then I'm left with x plus 10, which I'll need my matching set. And so I'll be looking what I can take out. And I'd like to put a 17 in there because 17 and x should give me this, but 17 and 10 don't give me this. So this actually turns out to not be factorable. So what I'm going to have to do here is come up with my list of numbers. Now I realize there's not a space that says give me the list of numbers. There is going to be that on the test. So what I'm going to do is take the factors of 28. Oh, and you know what? I think on the review, you're looking at this and you're seeing that's not the question we had. We are changing it. So 22 was good, but I did change 23 to this. I just remembered that. So this is the problem we're going to be working with instead. So on 28, I'm going to list the factors of 28. And then I'll go to the front and list the factors of 1. And then behind this bracket will be my list of numbers that I should test. And again, there will be a question like this on the test. You will need to come up with this list of numbers and not just go straight to 1 and negative 1. So the final list, the possible rational zeros are positive and negative. These numbers will be my numerator of a fraction. This will be my denominator. So when I put all of these over 1, I'll just have a repeat of the numbers. So the idea is, does 1 work? Does negative 1 work? And on the test, we will have 1 or negative 1 work. But we're going to start with 1 and see if it works. So there goes 1, 1, 10, 17, negative 28. Bring down the 1. Add those up. That's 11. Multiply. That's 11. We get 28. So as it turns out, 1 did work. So again, what this means is if x is 1, y is 0. And I could put that as a point on my graph, which makes this the x-intercept. All right. And then the other thing this meant was that we had a factor, that this was a remainder, this was the constant, this was x squared. And now I'm going to take what I have left, what's here, and factor this further. So what are factors of 28? They get me to 11, and those would be 4 and 7. So I can make my factors of x plus 4, x plus 7, and then solve for these, which means what makes them 0. So I'll get negative 4. This only shows up once. It's going to cross. I get negative 7. That only shows up once. That's going to cross. So I'm going to go down here and mark it negative 4 and negative 7. Okay. And just as a reminder, we did have that other answer of x equals 1. And on the test, you will have to have a factor for every answer or an answer for every factor. So these are a set, these are a set, and so I'm just going to make the factor that would have given me this. So this is something you would be looking for. And also, does it bounce, wiggle, cross? And since this also only shows up once, it's going to cross. My y-intercept, I can actually tell in the original problem. The y-intercept is 0, negative 28. So that doesn't fit on the graph, so I'm just going to go down a little bit further and say that, yep, that was 0, negative 28. And then I need to figure out the shape, those end behaviors, and I will tell that by looking here. Whoops, not that. And since that's an odd power, I'm going to have a line, and since there's a 1 in front, that line's going to be going uphill. So I'm going to draw those end behaviors first. It's going down on the left, up on the right. And now I'm ready to go from left to right. So it's going to cross through here, turn, cross through here, turn to get to your y-intercept, cross, and cross. And as far as end behavior goes, you know, on the right side, where x is infinity, it's going up. And on the left side, where x is negative infinity, it's going down. It's falling to the left. So negative infinity, negative infinity. Okay. Here we've got some graphing with transformations. So the first thing I'm going to do is identify the transformations. I'm not going to put the answers down here. I'm just going to write them up here. So first we will have a flip. We're going to have left 1 and up 4. And again, I'm going to make my list. So just coming over here to make my list, you'll have to remember your points of -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And what these are cubed, because that is the parent function. And now I'm going to start my transformations. So anytime there's a flip and a stretch or compress, those will change my y values. So all of these y's are just going to become the opposite. That'll become 8, 1, 0, -1, and -8. And then I don't need these anymore. So I'm going to graph this x with this new y. So -2, -8 has flipped up to -2, 8. They've all flipped. So I'm just graphing those 5 points right here. So there's the flip, and now I'm going to finish this by taking the points and moving them all left 1 and up 4. So this first one, left 1, up 4, you know, that's a little bit off the graph. Left 1, up 4. Each one left 1, up 4. And then the blue x's are my final shape. And again, there is a wiggle with x cubed as the parent function. What would make this 0 would be 3 zeros, and since that shows up an odd amount of time, means I would have a wiggle at 0. So the wiggle is also transforming. It's flipping, it's going left and up, etc. All right, and this one, I'm going to erase this so I have some room. I've got a stretch. I'm just going to write S. I got right 1 and up 1. So here comes my table first. And now I'm going to take all of these y's and double them. And when I look at this, this isn't all going to fit on the graph, so I won't worry about graphing these. And I don't need any of the y's, so I'm just going to focus on that wiggle area. So starting with the stretch, -1, -1, stretch down to -1, 2. We got 0, 0, and 1, 2. And now I'm going to take those points and move them right 1, up 1. And then just because I know the shape, there we go. All right, so the last 2 questions, writing the equation. So we start out kind of with just this general y equals a, and I will need to get the factors now. So this is -3 once, this is -1, but that's a wiggle, so I'm going to have it 3 times. And then that's it. Those are my factors. So for -3, I'll write x plus 3. And for the -1, I'm going to do x plus 1 with a cube. That's the 3 times. And so now I need some other point. What's another point on the graph that I can get just for certain? And, you know, I'm not sure, but I'm going to guess that this is a y-intercept right here of 0, -3. Looks pretty good to me. And on the test, I will make sure that we know that other point. So this is going to be the x and y when I'm ready to put this in there. So in for y will go -3. I need to figure out my a, and in for x will go 0. So 0 plus 3 and 0 plus 1 cubed. And then I'm just going to do the math here. So 0 plus 3 is 3, 0 plus 1, and then that 1 cubed is still 1. So when I'm done, I'm going to get a to be -1. And that negative says that whatever my shape is should be upside down. So I'm ready to write my final equation. I'm basically going to be rewriting this, but instead of a being a, it's going to be -1. So here's the final answer. Y equals -1, x plus 3, and x plus 1 cubed. This time I'm going to write it out 3 times just so I can show you why this was right. So first, just by multiplying the x's, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is x to the fourth, which will give me a U shape. And then that -1 multiplying it to it as well would say that this is an upside down U. So that's a quick way you could check. Last one. This time I'm going to write in factored form and standard form. We're not going to worry about the standard form. We're just going to go for factored form. So starting it, this time I'm giving you the zeros, the x-intercepts. So instead of with this 4, it's just going to be x minus 4i. With the negative 4i, it's going to be x plus 4i. We're doing just what we did at the top, but we just got i's in there. And then for the -1, it's going to be x plus 1. So factored form, I forgot my a, does not have imaginary numbers. So what we'll have to do is have these neighbors meet so that we can get rid of the imaginary numbers. So I'm going to do that real quick. X is going to go meet. And then -4 is going to meet. All right, so what's going to happen when these neighbors meet every single time, is that these will cancel out, and then this whole x squared plus -16i squared. We just need to remember that I squared is worth -1. So when you're looking at this -16 times I squared, it's really just -16 times -1, which turns into 16. So those two neighbors that had the imaginaries in it will just become x squared plus 16. So this is what we're going to work with now. Y equals a, and now we've turned that into x squared plus 16 and x plus 1. And now I'm going to take the other point, and I'm going to make this be my x and y, and put it in the equation. So y will get 32. A I'll figure out. X will be 0. And now just continuing on with the math. This will give me 16. That'll give me 1. And when I multiply that, this becomes 16a, and now a is worth 2. And then I'm going to go back to up here, because this is basically my answer. I'm just going to replace that a with a 2. So finally done, it's y equals 2 with x squared, let's never get x plus 16, and x plus 1. And that's it. And that is the chapter 4 review.